Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you'll please stand for our invocation and pledge.
Let's pray. Our dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the rain today, and we thank you for your safety that's brought us all here together again tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to do the work of the city and also to have the school board here join us tonight, and thank you for them. We ask a special blessing on the students and teachers tonight as they return back to school. We ask that you would watch over them, keep them safe, and that you would go before us this year, and that we would have a great year in school. Be with us now. We thank you for it. We thank you for Miss Tamara Brock tonight, and thank you for her service to our city. And we ask that you would go with her as she goes to a different venture. And we ask that you would, the person who follows behind her, that they would be also ready and fit for the job. Be with us now, and we thank you for it, and it's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
The Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Drake, the roll, please.
Carrie Hodge, Ward 1.
Here.
Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Carrie Roth, Ward 3.
Here.
Calvin Cooley, Ward 4.
Here.
Gary Fox, Ward 5.
Here.
Taft Wren, Ward 6.
Here. Thank you, Julia. I did incorrectly announce the beginning of this meeting. This is a called city council meeting along with the Cartersville school system at this time. So I will now call on Cartersville City School Board Chair, Ms. Kelly Dial, to call roll for the school system.
Yes. Tim Chasen.
Here.
Carolyn Hudson. Here. Kathy White. Here. Lee Painter. Here. Pat Romnett. Here. And Mr. Popham again is not with us.
Thank you. This is the third joint public hearing for setting the city schools millage rate. I will now open up a public hearing for the city school system's millage rate, which is to be set at, somebody yell that out at me, please. I have to put on my glasses.
14.576.
Thank you. I should remember that by now. 14.576. I'll ask anybody wishing to make comment either for or against to step forward and do so at this time. And seeing none, I will close the public hearing for the city school system's millage rate. Since this is the last presentation, I'll call on Mr. Tom Reinhardt to step forward to, I guess, call it, and then we can take action.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. This was the third public hearing for the Cartersville City School Systems. They will be setting their millage rate at 14.576 mils. This is not the rollback. The rollback rate was 12.964 mils. I do recommend the approval of the millage rate set for the Cartersville City Schools at 14.576 mils for 2020.
I would like to make make the comment that I made this morning again here in a council meeting that, you know, this millage rate is lower than a lot of other places. But I'll also tell you that the way that the school systems are funded in the state, there's equalization. And some school systems have to send their money away to other places to, quite frankly, fund other places. And in Cartersville, we are a donor system. And as the way that the current system is set up, there's 5 mils of this 14.576 that is getting sent down to the state to be redistributed to other places. It goes to some places that aren't quite that far away from us. But I just wanted to make sure that people knew nobody likes paying taxes. Everybody wants to make sure the taxes are used in the best way possible. I think our school system does a good job of keeping them as low as possible. They could be even lower if we weren't having to fund other places. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or discussion? If there are none, motion's in order.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimously. Tom, if you'll go, and we'll pause right there so you know better than I do. That'll conclude the school system's business, so I'll let them do what they need to do to go on and enjoy their evening.
Thank you.
You gonna take a motion to adjourn somehow?
We'll just consider ourselves adjourned.
You're welcome to stay and you're welcome to go. Wish I could join you. That's right, Roberts, yeah. Don't quite meet the must cut the standard.
I ain't their turn.
All right, Mr. Reinhardt, if you will step forward and we will take what is on the agenda as item number 2, which is the bid district.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council, this is the second reading for the Cartersville Business Improvement District millage rate to be set at 1.279 mils. There have been no changes since the first reading. The Cartersville Business Improvement District is made up of the downtown Cartersville Business District. These business owners have been self-assessing a property tax for many years to be used in the downtown use. Their millage rate for this year is 1.279 mils. This is the rollback rate, and I recommend the approval of the Cartersville Business Improvement District property tax millage rate of 1.279 mils for 2020.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Continue on, Tom.
We're going on to the Geo Parks and Recreation and Property Tax millage rate for 2020. The citizens of Cartersville approved the referendum in November 2014, authorizing the city to issue bonds to be used to pay for renovations and improvements throughout the parks and recreation and building and properties. The bonds were issued with a 10-year payback period. In order to make scheduled payments, the city has to assess a millage rate. The millage rate for 2020 is 0.77 mils. This is, it's 0.72 mils. This is below the rollback rate of 0.77 mils. I recommend the approval of the Cartersville Parks, Geo Parks and Recreation Bond Tax millage rate of 0.72 mils for 2020. This is the second reading, and there have been no changes since the first reading.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
And finally, the City of Cartersville M&O millage rate to be set at 2.91 mils. The property taxes received for the Cartersville M&O property tax collection are used for general city government operations, i.e. your police, fire, recreation, public works, etc. The proposed 2020 millage rate is 2.91 mils. This is the rollback rate for 2020. I recommend the approval of the Cartersville M&O property tax millage rate of 2.91 mils for 2020.
I will say once again, nobody likes paying taxes. When you get your tax bill, take a look and break down 2.91 mils, City of Cartersville, and the amount of your bill that goes to providing all the services that this city provides and what you're paying for it. And I think you will find that you are getting Neiman Marcus value at Walmart prices. The one stipulation I gave Ms. Brock when we headed into budget period, which was already well underway when COVID started, was that we are not going to raise the millage. I would not want to raise the millage rate. And council, you did that as well. We took some deep cuts. In addition to that, 2.91 is, we're an exceptional value if we were charging twice that much. But I want to thank you for your hard work in making that happen. And we're all doing our part to get through the downturn and come out stronger than ever. So, any other comments? There are none. Motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Tom. We'll now go to the top of the agenda, and we have two sets of minutes to approve. Can I do them at one time, Mr. Law?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. We have two sets of council meeting minutes before you, one from August 6th, which was our regular council meeting, one from August 13th. And you have them prepared for you and had an opportunity to review them. Chair will entertain any edits or changes. There's also an edit, or if there are none, a motion to approve the bid order.
Motion to approve both sets. Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Brock.
Yes, Charlie Milner would like to continue serving on the Etowah Area Consolidated Housing Authority, and if reappointed by council, his new term would be expiring in April 1st of 2025. Your approval is recommended.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve this appointment.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, Mr. Menino, Alcohol Control Board.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The Ward 2 appointment to the Alcohol Control Board, Jessica Weaver, did move outside of the city with that. The Ward 2 appointment has been recommended to be David Holt, and his application was included with your package.
Okay, any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Menino, we have file case AZ 20-3, if you would get us started on that.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. First, for the record, it has been properly posted and advertised, and it was reviewed based on the standards for exercise of zoning powers set forth in our ordinance. This is approximately a 31-acre tract. It's a subdivision, Brook Ridge subdivision off of Jones Mill Road, and it includes Faith Lane, which the lots are subdivided off of. The applicants are looking to annex into the city. Several of them did express interest in attending city schools. With that, the city did review this based on the particular standards that we review, and all the individual departments that review these applications did provide comments. With that, Public Works did note concern about a bridge that could potentially be the city's for perpetual maintenance. With that, and after those discussions, the Planning Commission did recommend denial of this application.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Menino at this point? And just so you know, there will be two public hearings. One is relative to the zoning. That will be the first piece. The second piece will be relative to the annexation. I know sometimes those two things could be hard to parse and pick. And so I will open up first the zoning portion of this application, AZ 20-03. And anybody wishing to step forward and speak for or against the zoning classification for this property can step forward and do so at this time. And when you do, if you would please, your name and your address so that our clerk can put it in our minutes.
Okay, I'm Frank Johnson. I represent Winslow Company, who developed the property. We really didn't have any feelings one way or the other. However, we still own one lot, the big lot that's down on near the creek. All the other lots have been sold. That lot at one time was 2, and when the floodplain rules was changed a few years ago, and I'm sure you all remember that, then we lost part of the building site that was on that lot. So we finally convinced the county to turn it into one lot. That lot is the lot that's contiguous to city property, which you needed in order to get it annexed into the city and zone. The people that live there have children in the city schools. And of course they have friends that are in the city, and they have a strong desire to come into the city. It's a quality development. As you can see, all the lots are large. The smallest lot in there is a little over 3 acres. The big lot down on the creek now is 9.5 acres. Most of them are anywhere from 4 to a little over 5. So we strongly recommend that you zone this property into the city, and we also strongly recommend that you annex it into the city. Any questions from me? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Again, this is the zoning portion of the application AZ 20-03. Anybody wish to step forward and speak for or against may do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for the zoning portion of the application. I'll now open up a public hearing for the annexation portion of the application. And again, ask anybody who wishes to step forward and speak for or against to do so at this time. And once again, sir, if you would please give your name and address for our clerk.
My name is Matt Stevens. I live at 15 Faith Lane. So the lot on the bottom right of the screen there. My kids do go to Cartersville City Schools. Our neighbor, the Englands, go to the city schools. Just very interested in being annexed into the city. The utilities besides the power are in the city. So it just kind of made sense to us to be annexed, and we're involved in the city, work in the city, I own a business in the city, so I just want to be in the city.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Any questions for Mr. Stevens? Thank you, sir. We'll continue the public hearing on the annexation portion of 20-03. Anybody else wishing to make comment may do so at this time. And seeing none, I will close the annexation public hearing for 20-03. Is there any questions or discussion amongst council at this time relative to the application? Either the zoning portion or the annexation portion. All right, if there is none, we'll take this up for final consideration at our first meeting in September. We'll move on to the next item, which is Z 20-03.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. This and the next case on the agenda actually go together, total about 18, close to 19 acres. This tract is off of East Main Street, adjacent to the Kroger, the new Kroger development. Initially, it was proposed to be additional shopping area for that particular lot, and with that, the applicant is looking to rezone it to MF 14 from the general commercial zoning. They're proposing approximately a 200-unit apartment complex, 5 buildings centered kind of around a courtyard or clustered around a courtyard and pool area. With that, the individual departments that review these for the city have reviewed them, and there seem to be no concerns from them. It was also forwarded to the school system, and no negative comments from the school system. With that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this application.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Mr. Menino at this time? Thank you. I will open up a public hearing for Z 20-03 and ask anybody wishing to step forward to make comment to do so at this time.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Cox. I reside at 3922 Chalmers Gate in Smyrna, Georgia. And I'm with Buckle Design Group. We are the civil engineering consultants for the applicant on this project. And I've been involved in the Main Street Marketplace for a number of years, since 2013. Our firm did the engineering and permitting on it, so I'm pretty familiar with the project. But I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
I have a question, Mr. Coxrell, and I don't know that this is your area of expertise. It very well may be. I'm not trying, I guess if I ask something that you don't know, it's certainly not intentional.
I'll give it a shot.
But I know that this project was originally part of a tax allocation district that was set up with the developer. And my question or my curiosity is since this was originally supposed to be, when the TAD was started, to be part of a retail development, since the nature of the development is changing, does that in some way jeopardize the TAD funding that was in place for the first portion of this? I guess I'm more looking out for the developer side, as saying, are you doing something that the bonding agencies or something, there's some benefit that they got on the front end that may make them liable if they're changing this?
I understood. And Joe Holmes from...
Oh, I didn't see it, Joe.
Yep,
Okay.
Joe's here. He's had discussions with the city on this very matter, so he's better equipped to answer that question.
Okay.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm Joe Holmes at 106 East 8th Avenue. I'm with Ledbetter Properties, the developer. To answer your question, Mayor, our attorney, Joe Siegler, has had discussions with Keith Lovell and the bond counsel, and we don't believe the multifamily component of the Phase 2 project will jeopardize our existing Phase 1 TAD.
Okay. That's good.
So,
Yeah,
we do need to confirm that. Oh, there you are, Mr. Lovell.
Well, I mean, that's something bond counsel will confirm, and, you know, I believe Joe's told me he has.
Yes,
You know,
okay.
y'all probably want to get that in writing before this transaction's, before the
Okay.
zoning is finalized. But the one thing that will probably be done, and I hope Mr. Reinhardt doesn't throw things at me, but since a portion of this property will now be used for things that aren't allowed in the TAD, if any of this was actually under the TAD itself, that part may be taken out of the TAD for the future tax payments going to you, and that part may be taxed at its full normal value. I don't really know where the boundaries are, the lines are.
Correct.
But that's something that, if this is approved and y'all go ahead with it, once you start that project, that the city and you and the county will have to get together with the tax assessor's office, and they'll all have to figure that out, and how your new tax bill will be coming to you. There may be no changes, and there
Sure.
may be changes. That'll ultimately be up to the tax assessors and Mr. Reinhardt there.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, and we will definitely planning on doing that, and you know, planning on Joe Siegler, you know, talking to you further, talking to the bond council further, just to make sure that.
From what Joe reported me, the bond council was, did not think there would be any issues, but I don't know if Joe's gone to the step to give y'all the comfort level of getting a written opinion from him on that yet.
I don't think we have anything in writing, it's all been verbal, but we do
I'd
plan to
recommend
get
you
it in writing.
The other question I had for you, Joe, while I got you up here, is when we had visited this issue some months ago now.
Sure.
This was something that was going to be developed and then owned and operated by the developer.
Correct.
That's still the case?
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right, that's the only questions I've got.
Do you mind repeating your address, please?
106 East 8th Avenue, Rome, Georgia.
All right. Any other questions at this time? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We will continue the public hearing on Z20-03 and ask anybody to step forward and make comment for or against to do so at this time. Mr. Cox, I don't know if I cut you off if you were done when I asked that question, if you're good. Okay. Thank you. All right, seeing none other step forward, I will close the public hearing for Z20-03, and we will move on to AZ20-04. Mr. Menino.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. As with the previous case, has been properly posted and advertised, and it has been reviewed based on the standards for exercise of zoning powers. What this additional 1.9, approximately 2 acres does is provides area to expand the detention pond that was developed when the original Kroger Shopping Center was developed and put in place. And it is part of the overall development of the previous case we just heard. With that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the annexation and zoning of this to the MF14 category.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Randy at this time? All right, I will open up the public hearing for the zoning portion of AZ 20-04 and ask anybody who wishes to step forward and speak at this time. And seeing none, I will close the zoning hearing for the application and open up an annexation hearing for, again, 20-04, the portion of the application for annexation. And seeing none step forward, I will close the public hearing for the annexation portion of AZ 20-04. And again, council will take this up for final consideration at our first meeting in September. Randy, if you'll move us on to the next one, please, sir. T20-02.
Thank you again. This is a proposed text amendment. This dates back to last August 2019, when council chose to go into a moratorium regarding some issues in some of the historic districts, specifically the West End and Cherokee-Cassville historic districts. There was concerns over some subdivision and demo permits and some other issues out there. With that, council came with 14 itemized items that they had concerns about. With that, staff and city attorney, Historic Preservation Commission, some council members, we had several meetings discussing and going over some of the items of concern and how to address those 14 items. What finally came out of it was some text amendments to the zoning ordinance standards. With that, 2 overlay districts were created that mimic the historic district boundaries for West End and Cherokee-Cassville. It provides for additional standards to further promote compatibility in those historic districts. With that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of these text amendments.
Okay.
Mayor, the only thing I will add to that is, y'all did have some concerns that are not actually addressed by this proposed text ordinance. Those are matters that we felt were more appropriately addressed by the HPC, and they were already in the process of doing amendments on those issues for in their next cycle. Sometimes, originally it was supposed to be this summer, but we've had some other issues in between, so it'll probably be towards the first of the year, I would imagine, before we get back to those.
Like what? What's been happening the last few months?
All I really know is they canceled the NCAA basketball tournament, so I did not win my pool this year.
Gotcha.
That's really all I know.
You didn't lose it either, though. All right.
Well, since I'm the only person in it,
That's true. All right, we will have any questions for Randy? Sorry about that, Ms. Hodge, who's working hard at home for us. Any questions for Randy at this time on this item? I'll get us back on the tracks, folks. Sorry. I'll open up a public hearing for T20-02 and ask anybody who wishes to step forward and speak for or against at this time. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Is there any discussion to be had amongst council on the item at this time? If there's none, we will take this up for final vote at our first meeting in November. September, thank you. What did I, yeah. And we'll move on to the next item, last item in the Randy Menino show tonight, alcohol text amendment.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. David Hull has applied for an amendment to the newly established specialty shop section of the alcohol ordinance. What it does is amend one portion of the standards. In the standards for specialty shops, it was restricted to the boundary of the downtown business district. The proposed amendment expands the area where specialty shops can be allowed, and that area is outlined on the map shown up there. It's basically to the east of Tennessee, between East Cherokee and East Main Street. With that, the Alcohol Control Board did recommend approval of the proposed text amendment to the alcohol ordinance. Do you believe Mr. Holt is present?
Thank you. I will, anybody have any questions for Randy at this time? I'll ask a question because we talked about it in the work session, the difference between just expanding or creating the zone versus expanding the downtown business district and including that property in there. Time frame or level of difficulty, if that was the decision that council wanted to do?
Keith had alluded to it earlier, because there's actually three different boundaries. You have the downtown business district zoning boundary, you have the downtown business district historic boundary, and then you have the DDA boundary. I believe are the three different, there may even be another one, but if we did it for the zoning, it would be a matter of going through advertising, notifying the property owners that their properties would be rezoned from the MU to the DBD zoning district, go through planning commission, getting a recommendation from planning commission, then coming to council like a typical zoning case.
Okay. And so the time frame of going through for all three of those?
Anywhere from probably 2 months for the zoning change. I'd say potentially 4 to 5 months for the actual DBD district change, because that's a little more detailed process. And for the HPC change, let's see, we would have to send that off to the state, wouldn't we, David?
Yeah. 30-day review by the state.
Yeah, so you're probably talking 3 months at a minimum for the HPC change.
Okay.
And, this is in the alcohol ordinance, and all the alcohol ordinance does is say specialty shops are allowed in the DBD, downtown business district. So, it doesn't specify, and that is the one that we're using for it. You can, of course, specify any boundaries you want for where you want specialty shops to go. You don't have to tie that to the DBD. That's just what council decided when they originally did it. You can make the boundaries whatever you want, and, we can redefine them however council chooses to do so, or if y'all choose not to do anything.
That answers my question. Is there any other questions?
Is there a variance process then if it's just a boundary? There's no, I mean, like,
No,
they get good board.
not for, for zoning, no, you're not allowed to vary a district boundary. That would actually come as a rezoning. And there's not a variance process that would be allowed for the DBD one, because that's a specific boundary set for taxing purposes and other things by the mayor and council. So you have to go through a formal process to change that. Now, with the other DBDs that are referenced throughout the ordinances, there wouldn't be a variance allowed for them, because you can only get a variance if it's something that is potentially allowed to be used. If something is prohibited within a certain area or district, you can't get a variance for it, because there's nothing to vary.
So I don't think there's a variance process for the alcohol ordinance.
No, there's not.
All right. Any other questions for Randy?
Is there been talk to bring that zone down or expand it, or is this?
The Alcohol Control Board did bring up, is it time for expansion of the entire downtown business district? Again, that's more of a council discussion item, but they did discuss that.
This particular area, this 500 feet.
Oh, it originally was proposed as more completely surrounding the DBD, and that was more my effort working with Mr. Holt, the applicant, of putting together a text amendment. Then Alcohol Control Board thought that was too large, and then there was discussion of going between Church Street and Leek Street, because that's the entire length of Tennessee Street on that one side, and they still felt that was too much. So they came up with narrowing it down between Church and Main.
Okay.
And I think during the work session, there was discussion, if you're going to do that proposed boundary, why not extend it on up to the next road up there, just to Stonewall, to make it
That makes sense to me. I mean, if it is, might as well just extend it all the way to Stonewall. That way you encompass all the properties and businesses on that specific block. It makes things a little bit smoother and easier, in my opinion.
But again, there's still the issue of it's actually not the DBD, so there's two sides.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? All right, thank you. Appreciate that, Randy. Again, we'll take this up for our first meeting in September.
Well, Mayor, can I ask Lily a question?
Evidently so. Come on up, Lily.
What is the DDA's take on this? I mean, seeing this, is that something that you see in the future? Is this something that the Downtown Developmental Authority is in favor of, against, or what is your opinion on it?
With some modifications, I think that we would be in favor of that. And I say that because if we were to expand all aspects of our district, including the business improvement tax district, adding CVS in there would significantly throw off the measurements by which we're able to create that district, vis-a-vis their property values and the corporate nature of their organizational structure. Make it very hard potentially to get the signatures we need to renew that district, because unlike the DBD district, which once it's set, it is kind of there in perpetuity, we do have to renew the taxation district every 5 or 10 years, depending on how we set it in the management plan. But there is definitely the discussion about expanding the downtown district, and I've talked with Mr. Menino about it, and I think that we could certainly find an agreeable solution, and we would very much love to have the Holt's proposed properties in our district. So it's very compatible with what we see our future use.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir. And Lily, while you're there, guess what? You're
indeed.
next on our list. So good evening, Ms. Reed.
Good evening. Thank you, guys. So as part of our work with the Department of Community Affairs, we were able to help secure what is known as a Downtown Development Revolving Loan Fund for one of our property owners. And so this is a gap financing process to help with economic development in the downtown district. It is a pass-through loan from the Department of Community Affairs through the Downtown Development Authority to the property owner. We discussed this at our board meeting today. The DDA is in approval or recommends approval, and we support the DDRLF process.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Lily.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Gillum, you've got the next couple, please, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First off is a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Cartersville Gymnastics Booster Club. The Booster Club has agreed to pay the gymnastics coaches the ability to travel and to compensate their travel, their per diem, and any travel-related expenses. The Booster Club will also be allowed to hire a part-time coach that will help with the boys' competitive program that will either be an employee or an independent contractor of the Booster Club. This agreement, if approved, will begin on August 21st of 2020 and be effective through June 30th of 2021.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Tom on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Everything, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next was a scoreboard for Joe Frank Harris Field at Hicks Park. Several weeks ago, a storm came through and blew the scoreboard down to where it's beyond repair. And so the Parks and Recreation Department and Cartersville Little League signed a request for bids. We received 2 back, and we chose View Score. The scoreboard will include the board itself, ad panels, and the installation of all the equipment. The amount of the scoreboard will be funded through the Property and Casualty Insurance Fund. The total quote cost is $9,460, and we're asking for a not-to-exceed amount of $10,000.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Tom. Mr. Lovell, you have the next couple, please.
Yes, Mayor, the first one is a quitclaim deed for Arrowhead Lane. Back in the early 70s, the city abandoned a portion of that. However, we never recorded a quitclaim deed for it. They did a title exam on that property and want to sell it, and they've requested the city do a quitclaim deed to do what we were supposed to do 40-something years ago. It is recommended for your approval.
Questions, comments, or motions?
Make a motion. I'll second it.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Hodge. Motion carries unanimously. I was going to say, I'm sure that was our city attorney's.
It was actually before David was here, so no, you cannot blame
That
David
means we
for
weren't even
that.
a city. What are you talking about?
1904.
The next one, Mayor, is the proposed First Amendment to the DDA intergovernmental agreement. As y'all know, we approved the intergovernmental agreement at the request of the auditors with the DDA. As part of that agreement, it was forwarded to the DCA for their review, since they have to review it since we're part of the Main Street Partners program. And they suggested we make an amendment to that to indicate that there would be a reserve fund for the DDA. That's all this amendment does. It is recommended by your approval and has been approved by the DDA.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Porta.
Yes, Mayor. The first item I have is email software renewal for our cybersecurity protection. We use Mimecast. It's an annual budget item of $21,202.82 and recommended for your approval.
Thank you. Questions for Dan on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please.
Yes, sir. Travelers Insurance deductible invoice we received in the amount of $8,287.70 regarding 2 accidents, and I recommend that for your approval as well.
Questions, comments, or motions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please, Dan.
Yes, sir. It's the second quarter of 2020 invoice for the Motorola radio system, which is our public safety system used also by some of our utilities. It's a cost of $31,466.55 and is recommended for your approval.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Make a motion. I'll second it.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Chief Carter, you have the next item, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item I bring before you tonight is a budgeted project. This is the second year of a 2-year project where we're replacing our mobile data terminals in our fire trucks. These are the terminals that connect our firefighters live in the field with the 911 computer-aided dispatch system, the CAD system. We're using the identical units as used by Cartersville PD. We'll be replacing our old terminals with our Panasonic Toughbooks. A total of 6. Fiber's recommending this project with a total amount of $19,897.87. This is budgeted. It is through the 2020 Splosh through Fiber.
Thank you, Chief. Any discussion on this? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please, Chief.
This is for our annual uniform order. Rarely do y'all see our uniform orders come before you. It's because we individually order for 74 people. In an attempt to try to drive down our price, and we were successful with that, we're going to do a bulk order of a total of 252 pieces, counting shirts and pants on Nomex. The single source provider is going to be with TNT out of Smyrna. Total price of $25,852.50, which is well below our budgeted amount. We appreciate your consideration on that.
Thank you. Questions, comments, or motions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously, and we do need to add an item. Chair will entertain a motion to add that item.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 One item added. Go ahead, Chief.
When we close our old fire station number 3 and opening up the new one on Charlie Harper Drive, there was one piece of equipment that was within that station that was purchased in 2004, and it was a gear extractor. It's basically a heavy-duty washer that cleaned firefighters' turnout structural firefighting gear. We were attempting to move this over to Station 4, however, it would not fit into that station due to the age of this particular piece of equipment. And so we were in a process of preparing this year for this equipment to be surplused out. We anticipate of actually being able to receive about maybe $1,000 to $1,500 for this equipment. Originally, the equipment run between $11,000 and $13,000. I had the chief of Polk County Volunteer Fire Department reach out to me, and he heard that we were going to potentially surplus the equipment and asked us if we would consider donating that equipment to the Polk County Volunteer Fire Department. He stated that they had no way to actually clean the firefighting gear, and with the cancer initiatives, it's very important for us to do that. I feel as a community we're extremely blessed, and I think this will be an opportunity to help us, a neighboring community, and pay it forward. So I'm asking you this evening to surplus a 2004 washer extractor of the city, and then I would respectfully ask you to also donate this piece of equipment per the request of Chief Randy Lacey of the Polk County Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay, thank you. Would the motion need to include both the salvaging it and the donation?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion or questions for Chief Carter on this? If not, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve the salvaging and the donation of the
Second.
fire uniform washer.
Okay. Second still hold? Thank you. Got a motion to second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Motion carries
Thank you.
unanimously. Thank you. Bob, you're up.
Fire gear washer.
Mr. Jones, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. We have 3 belt filter presses, as we discussed earlier, at the wastewater plant, and as part of our larger plant project, those pieces of equipment were undergoing a total mechanical refurbishment. This was being done by an out-of-town OEM service team that we had to schedule months in advance. When they got there and worked on the first piece of equipment, as they went to test it and commission it, they discovered there were multiple faults in the control wiring for that piece of equipment. At that point, we had a couple of choices. One was to pay them standby time while we figured out how to make the thing run. The second was to let them leave and to reschedule them months in advance or months out to come back and complete the work. or to hire an electrician to come in and chase the fault down while we put them to work on the second machine. We elected the latter of the choices, and that resulted in a bill from Hero Electric for $10,076.41. We do recommend that for your approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Bob on this item? If there are none, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Chief McCann.
Sir. So as you guys are aware, we're required to do a federal annual report every year, and it's due 60 days after the end of the fiscal year. So the federal annual report for 2019 and 2020 is due September 1st. We received $309,765.77. We spent $399,796.67. And I'm requesting that the council authorize the mayor to sign this report. It'll be an electronic signature.
Good. Any questions? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. We do have one additional item to add. Chair will entertain a motion to add that item.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
One item is added. Mr. Lovell.
Mayor, as y'all know, due to the fact of the various city utilities that we have, we sometimes have to retain outside counsel that specialize in coordinating with the various federal agencies. Like we have an outside counsel that deals with FERC for natural gas. I'm going to recommend at this time y'all enter into a retainer agreement with Hall, Booth and Smith out of Atlanta, who specializes in FCC matters, which basically would deal with our fiber wire and the related federal communications processes and grants, approvals, and permits you have to get from them. And I would recommend y'all enter into a retainer agreement to use them when issues come up.
Okay.
Because I will be honest with you, I'm not an expert on FERC or FCC rules.
Oh, come on, Keith.
And don't want to be.
No, you don't. Any questions for Mr. Lovell on this? And if not, a motion is in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Any other business things come before council this evening? I will do what Tamara doesn't want me to do, but as all of you know, this is her final city council meeting with us. She's going to be going on and taking a role on with the state of Georgia. We're fortunate that she'll still be able to help our community in that role as well. I want to applaud you for a job well done in the time that we've sat in this chair. And you know, kind of groundbreaking as the city's first female city manager. But your time with the city over the 13 years has been marked with exemplary service and dedication to our city and making our community a better place. You can look at many of the utility customers that we have that we were able to land because of your efforts and working with a team of people in the electric department. In your time as city manager, I joke with our old friend Sam, who's comfortably down in Florida right now. I said, well, you picked a good time to get out. Cyber attacks and pandemics and a number of other challenges in the 2-year period where you occupied that chair, and you did it professionally and with an air of class and dignity that has well served our city, and the efforts that you've made, especially in the challenging and unprecedented times from March until now. Your leadership, your steady hand, and your guiding throughout this will have a positive impact on the future of the city for years to come. So, thank you. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you to Mayor and Council for the opportunity. I knew I'd get emotional. This has been home for 13 years, and it's been a privilege to be a part of this place. You have a great team in front of you as far as department heads and city staff. In the past 6 months, they have rose to the occasion time and time again, and I'm very grateful for them. So again, thank you for the opportunity. I still live at 32 Harwood Drive, and so I'm still a citizen of the city. But Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Good luck.
Any other business that needs to come before council? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There you go.